Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today called Release Notes Automation, also known as Technical Considerations for Implementing a Release Notes Best Practices. My name is Patrick Bozick, and I'll be your host today. So this is a little picture of me, just so you know who's talking. I'm one of the founding partners, and I'm the Director of Customer Success here at Jorsek. We are the makers of the easyDITA CCMS XML authoring system that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. So today we're going to be taking a look at a process for automating the creation and workflow around generating release notes. So we're going to do a quick intro. Then we're going to take an overview of the tools. We'll then discuss the setup of these tools and how they're configured to get the process we're looking for. We're then going to see demonstrations of the release notes automator. We'll then get a small workflow demonstration that will show how the generated content that we'll see here can be put through a workflow and can be done very efficiently. And finally, we'll do some publishing at the end. So first of all, why are we doing this? For those of you who didn't have the opportunity to attend our first webinar, our primary drivers here, other than it's really cool, are a big savings in time and a big improvement in quality. So for those of you who didn't have a chance to see Casey's webinar a few weeks ago on some best practices around release notes, it is worth a watch. I would advise you go take a look at that after the fact if this is still interesting to you. Something else that's really worth noting is that we're using release notes because they're a very visual example. They're really something that people work with on a day-to-day basis, but they are an example that can be extrapolated into a much larger best practice around working with structured content and further working with content across different systems inside of a content ecosystem. So the process that we're going to be applying today is one that you could use for many different types of structured content, be that content that was generated by a parts database, something that came out of another workflow tool, or any number of other systems that are capable of generating some type of structured content. So a quick overview of what we're going to be seeing today. We're going to jump into a system called JIRA. JIRA is a project management and issue tracking tool. It's one of the more popular tools. It happens to be a tool that we use in-house. So I'm hoping that some of you are familiar with it. We're going to use JIRA to generate an XML export of content, the JIRA issues. And then we're going to take those issues and we're going to bring them into easyDITA. We're then going to break those issues down into DITA topics. We'll take those topics, we'll separate them out into several different maps or publications. In this case, we've configured it to do that by product, but we'll talk through some of the other options a little bit later. And then we're going to take some other automation tools, and we're going to use those to generate PDFs in a variety of formats. All right, so let's take a look at how we get set up with this process. So the first thing we're going to see is we're going to take a quick look at our JIRA configuration. Because these two systems are being tied together, it is important that they have some common things to hook into, some common language. And then we're going to take a look at our easyDITA configuration. This is basically a set of small configuration files that are going to drive the overall behavior of the release notes generator system that we have. And they're pretty basic. Actually, the first 4 of these are just data types, and the last one is just a small bit of a configuration that defines how the rest of it interacts. So for starters, I'm going to jump over into our JIRA instance. What you can see here is we have a pretty standard JIRA cloud instance. I have a JQL, which is a fancy word for a search in JIRA, configured here. I will also jump over to the project just to see, so we can see what that looks like. So here inside of our demo project, we have a couple of things that are worth noting. We have a small set of issues here. You can see they're all under this project. A few of them are bugs, a few of them are tasks, and the rest of them are all user stories. If I click on one of these items, you'll see that we have components defined here. We have the different statuses. We have some versioning defined here. And then if I actually jump into the edit, we can see that we have a few more bits of metadata that's not readily displayed as well. So we have a feature type. This isn't currently in use, but it's something that can be used for, by using a little bit more advanced sorting. We have an exclude from release notes. This we actually use to drive one of the parts of our query that pulls these issues out. So if you select yes here, these won't even be exported. That's something that we use internally. So things like design a mockup or comment on a file or something like that. Some of the more some of the basic tasks that wouldn't be interesting to our customers can be excluded from the actual release notes process. We also have an audience item here. So we have a couple different levels that we use here. So we can set our different issues as being internal, only for our partners. So that would be, our internal people and our partners. This obviously gets less restricted as we go. External restricted, I won't really dive into what that is right now. And external, of course, is what is delivered to our customers and is displayed publicly. We actually do have a customers field here. So we can use this to set a bit of metadata on an actual issue if that's interesting to one of our customers. So we don't do that for all customers, but we do it for some of our customers who are our larger customers or customers who are very interested in a particular system. Maybe they're helping us beta test a feature that we haven't released yet. This helps keep them apprised to different things that are coming down the pipe that maybe we're not releasing publicly. So that's a really helpful part of our process. And it would be helpful for you too if you're the type of company that tends to work very closely with your customers as you're going through development. And finally, we have a products section in here. So oftentimes our different features or our fixes will refer to more than one of our product tags. And this is really important because this allows us to produce release notes that are specific to the product that one of our customers is using. So maybe something fits into our easyDITA Lite product and our enterprise product, but it isn't something that is applicable to like our platform product. So this is a really nice way to sort these out and have them fall to the right buckets from a product perspective. And then of course we do have the components here as well. So now we've taken a quick look through how these issues are configured. I'm going to jump over to our JQL and I'm actually going to run our export. So this little button right here is our export, and I'm going to click export as XML, open this in a new tab. So that's going to give us back what is effectively an RSS feed of all these different items. So we can see here there's some metadata up here, and then our items are basically broken down into these XML definitions. Now you'll notice there's some standard information in here. So we have our component here. We have our names and our keys, all those types of things. These will all be common for any JIRA implementation. But then we have a number of custom fields as well. So you can see there's our exclude from release notes. Here's our products. You can see we've got the different products set up in here, so we know what these relate to. And these are going to drive some of the other behavior that we're going to see in just a minute. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this page. I'm going to call it JIRA export for demo. Click save. And now that I've saved that that JIRA file, I'm going to jump back over to my presentation and take a look at what's up next. So now that we've got that saved, we're going to go and we're going to look at the easyDITA configurations. We'll come back to that XML file in just a second. So jumping over in easyDITA, we have our demo release notes configuration right here. So this is a JIRA issues converter configuration here. So this is just a doc type in easyDITA. Very often in easyDITA, you'll see that our different configuration files are just simple doc types. Because our XML editing technology is very flexible, this is a really easy way for us to set up configuration and other just definition type files inside of easyDITA. So I'm going to click Edit on this. That's going to pull that open. All right, so what we're looking at here is we're looking at 5 different things we want to configure. The first 4 are all links to different templates. So we have a warehouse template, a map template, a topic template, and an issue template. These are all going to define the structure that's going to actually be produced when we generate this content. So for the most part, these first 3 are just containers. They're not all that interesting. They're just kind of where we're going to stick stuff as we generate it. But this last one, this issue template, this one's the interesting one. So I'm going to actually go and open that and have a look at it. It's in our templates folder. Here's our issue template. Okay. So our issue template has a couple of funny little values in it. We can see these items here that have the double parentheses around them. And I'm actually going to jump into the source mode for this because this is a bit more of an administrative function. So as much as we like to stay in the WYSIWYG mode most of the time in easyDITA, this is something that you really kind of do have to get into the tags. So just opening up the source mode. Let's take a look at what we've got here. So everything that's above this list item here is really just there to be valid. So it's there so easyDITA understands how to hold on to it, but none of it's really used. The important part is this list item right here. This could be any element. You don't have to use list items. We use list items just because it flows into the rest of our process in the way that we want it to. But these could be divs. They could be sections if you wanted them to be. They could really be configured any way that you wanted them to be set up. The important part is that they are flagged with an output class of issue template. This is what we're going to use to grab this section of XML when we go through the processing step. You can see we're going to set the ID of this to being the key of the issue. So that's the same as the JIRA issue key. And then we have a couple of custom fields in this audience here. So unfortunately, custom fields are a little harder to read because they just use these ID structures. So if we want to go take a look at what these are, we can go see how we correlate these items. Jumping back quickly to our export, we can see we've got our custom fields. So we've got the 11903 here. Of course, that's the product, because you can see it's in the product conditional attribute metadata there. And of course, that's going to correspond to the products field here. We also have the customer, that's what that one is there. And I believe this one is the internal external. We have a few more bits of metadata down here. These all work the same. They're just placeholders. They're going to be exchanged during the processing step. Okay, so now that we've taken a quick look at the configurations around this process, I'm going to jump back to my presentation again, and we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, so we've done this. We've run the JIRA query. We've exported and saved it to the desktop. And now we're going to go and we're going to upload that JIRA XML into easyDITA, and we're going to actually run the processing report. So this is kind of the exciting step. So I'm just going to click the Upload a New File button. I'm going to select a file to upload. I've got my JIRA export for demo. Click Upload. It's going to upload right into easyDITA for us, sitting right there. So next what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our dashboard, and we're going to open up our Reports tab. Now we have a number of certified reports in here. So if you have this feature in easyDITA, you'll see a number of these in your instance as it stands today. I'm going to be running the Generate Release Notes from JIRA Issues report here. So I'll click the Set Parameters. First, I'll go and I'll get those JIRA issues that I just uploaded. Next, I'm going to go and get the configuration file that we were looking at. And finally, I'm going to select a folder to save this into. So I'm going to select our version 2.0 folder. Now I'm going to click Run Report. So this is going to take just a second. When it's done, it's going to return a bit of information for us. So this is going to tell us it's generated 2 maps. You can see it's got one for each product that we had labeled, we had issues for. So we have the DITA CCMS and the DITA knowledge-based product here. These are both active links, so I could click on these and open them in a new tab if I wanted to. But since we already have the CCMS loaded up, I'll just go back to our authoring interface. Okay, quickly back to our presentation, and then we'll come back and take a look at this. All right, so before we actually go in and poke around with what we've seen, just want to do a bit of an overview about what we just saw. So first and foremost, the XML from JIRA was processed. And this is what that really means. It was split into one warehouse file per issue. So if you look again at our XML here, these items, there's a number of these in here. Each of these are going to be turned into a DITA file. So all the stories and all the different bug fixes, they're all going to be converted over into DITA files. Or excuse me, they're going to be split apart. Next, they're going to be converted into these DITA files. So each one of these is taken and run through that processing step using that template that we had seen earlier. So all those different values are going to be replaced, and each of these items then becomes valid DITA in a small warehouse topic, which we'll see in just a second. Once we have our DITA items in our warehouse files, each of these are actually gone and assembled and organized by type into different release notes for different products. Again, that's a configuration. So you could get more complex. You could have it be one release notes map or publication per product per version, or per product per some other metadata that was configured for your organization. So taking a look at that, we're going to open up this folder. We'll see that we've got 2 DITA maps here. We're going to open those up in a second, but first let's take a look at our warehouse. So the warehouse has taken each of these issues, as we just said, and it's turned them into DITA topics. So we can see we've got the story here. We've got some other items as sub-bullets. This is all just swapped in the way that we expected them to be based on the template that we had set up before. You'll also notice the status of each of these has been set. And some other items have been set as well that we'll take a look at when we get to the workflow portion in just a minute. Each of these warehouses have then been conrefed into different topics based on the component that they were related to. So if you remember back in our JIRA configuration portion, we saw that the different issues could be related to components. Those components were the administration, the dashboard, search, and then we have a general one for things that don't have components. So if we take a look here, we'll see that we have one for each of these items. So this is the dashboard for the Jorsek DITA CMS. You can see that each of these items is conrefed in here. And this is really important because we have some of these items being shared between these different products. And therefore, when we do in the workflow portion go through and make changes to these stories for curation to make them better and more readable, it'll be transferred to all the products automatically. So this is just using a basic function of DITA, but really providing us a lot of value because it's what allows us to spend time on these release notes to make them higher value and still have them flow into all the different products and places that they need to be seen. Finally, let's take a look at our maps where these topics have been assembled. So first I'll look at the release notes map here, or the DITA CMS map here. We'll see that this has the general, dashboard, and administration, because it has stories for each one of these, and search. If we go and we take a look at the knowledge base, we'll notice that the knowledge base only has general, dashboard, and search, because there weren't any administration items that were pertinent to the knowledge base product. So it's pretty smart in that way. You know, it's not going to generate an extra topic that you then have to go and work on or remove from the map. Okay, so now that we've taken a look through that, jumping back to our presentation, what we've seen here is that we've generated fully compliant DITA content from our JIRA issues. The maps have been built for us, so we didn't have to do any assembly of this. This isn't just transferring all the work down to another place. It's actually really automating this process in a way that's useful to us. And there's also been a number of bits of metadata applied across these files, and we're going to see that more in just a second when we get into the workflow piece. All right, so now it's time to actually clean these up, because just going through and generating these is nice. You know, it's very nice for the organizational perspective, and it'll allow us to publish these in a way that's going to make them, you know, really nice and presentable. But really the major benefit here is the fact that it provides us a framework to do our work around release notes in a way that is efficient, it's trackable, and we don't lose work when things change in the future. So this is really, you know, this is really the big value point that we're going to see here. All right, so jumping into our warehouses, we're only going to work off of the warehouse topics because this is really the source content. Now, I was saying that metadata was applied earlier, and this becomes really evident, the value of this becomes really evident when we start to look here. So if we come down and we take a look at this, we'll see that we have the components tagged on these items. So let's say we have 3 different writers who are involved in working on this set of release notes. I can come in and I can select a dashboard, and I can say that I'm going to assign all of these topics to one of the writers to clean up, because they're the ones who are most involved in the dashboard user interface. So now that I've selected these, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to click New Assignment. And I'll say, please go through these and clean them up. I'm going to select a simple review. I'm going to assign my user See More Typos as the editor. We can see that he's got 4 files in here. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Create. So I could obviously go through and do that for each set of files. It's very quick and efficient. I can see this is the set of files for administration, and this is a set of files for search. But let's now go see what Seymour sees, and how easy his job is going to be in relation to this as well. Okay, so this is Seymour's dashboard. You can see he's got a couple of assignments in here. So all he's going to do is come in here and, well, he may have actually gotten an email for this, so he may have skipped this particular step. But if he did log into easyDITA in the morning, he could click the Open Assignment. There's also a link from the dashboard that provides this. And he'll be provided the 4 items with a previous and next here, also a list of the items right here. And he's going to be able to go through these and curate them. So he can click Open here. This is going to pop this item open for him. And he can say, well, that's not really the best way to say that. So we can say, new button in the dashboard to save the world. And say that's good enough for that one. Click Save, Close. And then we'll want to set the status on this one. So we'll set it to approved.
Next, we'll go on to this guy. And we'll say, well, that's okay. That's just a quick fix so people understand that. Click approve there too. Let's change this one. Perhaps we could add an image in here. And I'll just add this simple image. It doesn't really have anything to do with this, but that's okay. Click Save. Okay. So of course he'd go through and he would finish this. He'd just click I'm done when he's done. There are, of course, a number of other workflow items that could be run through here. That's just the simplest possible method. So one of the great benefits of what we've seen right there is now if we come back into our warehouse folder, we'll see that we have these approveds on each of these documents. So now if we go back to our filters, it's very easy for us to see what the total status of this is. So now let's say I want to see all the items for dashboard, and I want to see which ones are still in new. Let's do it combined. So I can see which ones are approved, and I can see which ones are new here. And that allows us to go through these items and see what still needs to be done. Okay, so now that we've gone through and we've done some curation on these items, let's go back to the presentation and continue on to our next step. So of course, as it always turns out, there's always a last minute change. So before the end of the release cycle, something changes, a few more stories are added, and we find out about it at the last second. So let's see what happens when we add a few more stories or a few more fixes to this right before we have to go to publish. So if we go back into our project, we'll create a new fix. Fixed a really important issue. Exclusion release notes, no. External audience, both of our products, and we'll put it on the search. All right, so we've created a new fix that's now in our release. We'll see that we can come in here and we can rerun this. We've got another item down here now. And we can come in here and we can re-export this content. So open this in a new tab again. We'll click Save Page As. Demo 2. We'll come back here and we'll upload this item. And we'll go back to our report. We're going to grab our new upload, grab our configuration again. Select the same folder and run our report. Okay, so now what we're going to see here is that this has gone through and it's created our new item here. Which is our number 12. It's linked it into both of our maps. Both maps now contain this.
but it hasn't touched any of these other ones that we went through the process of curating. So what's really nice about this is it's rebuilt our publications for us. It's left our current work alone, and it's added in the new work right in the places that it needs to go. So it's done all the organization for us. So this can really be a lifesaver at the last moment. If you get a little bit of a feature creep or a fix in the last second, you don't have to be really particular and pulling your hair out about where this is going to go and how you're going to manage this. Those types of things. You can just come in here, you can find the things that are new, and you can put those back through the process that we were showing just a minute ago. So it's a very efficient way of managing this, and it can make your life a lot easier right at the last minute. Okay, so now that we've got our content and we're ready to go to publish, what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to publish this content to a couple of PDFs, and then we're also going to do a little bit of web publishing with it as well. So to publish a PDF, we're actually going to use this item I have right here, which is a Jorsek publishing configuration. So what I've done is I've set up a publishing configuration file. So I'll just go back a step here. Scenario. So let me just close that real quick. So starting over from the beginning, we'll see if we open this up. Add our new scenario in here. So we have our Jorsek PDF. We'll set our trans type as being jorsek.pdf. We're going to add both of our maps. So there's our CMS map. And a second link to our knowledge base map. We also have a couple of DITA veils down here. So what you're seeing is we have a DITA veil for the general customer. So this is going to bear the postfix public. And we also have a DITA veil for an important customer named Acme. So this is going to provide us the ability to do some highlighting or the ability to show them specific things based on their audience parameter. I'm going to save that, click close. So once we have that configured, we can add as many publishing scenarios, as many DITA veils, and as many maps in there as we want. And it's going to publish once for each combination of those items. We're then going to go back to our publish reports one more time. We're going to run publishing configuration. And this is going to queue up our jobs for us, and it's going to go and run our actual publishing. So while that's going on, what we're going to do is we're going to open up another tab, and we're going to take a look at the process of putting this onto a simple web interface. So we actually have a simple portal interface wired up to this instance. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up this map, which is tied into that portal. It's our release notes section in there. Get rid of that. And we're going to go and add in both of these release notes items. So we have our CMS there, and we have our knowledge base. Click Save. So now if we go and we open up the portal connected to this, we go into our release notes section. You can see we've got release notes for both of these products displaying for us. Okay, let's go check on our PDF publishing. All right, so this is all done now. So now we're going to click Fetch All Output. It's going to download a zip package for us. This is going to come with a set of PDFs. So we've got our Acme and our public here for both of these items. So you can see with a few clicks, we've just published 4 different PDFs, one specific to the entire public and one specific to our important customer Acme for both the CCMS and for the knowledge base. So here we have some nicely styled PDFs. You can see that we've filtered out some of that internal data here. We've organized these items into new and enhanced and into fixes for each of these sections. And obviously this is a very simple example. If you look at most of our release notes, there's many more items in here. Okay, so now we've gone through the process of publishing our content to the web and publishing it to a set of PDFs that are audience specific and product specific. With a little more configuration, they could also be version specific. So if you were publishing for a 1.1 and a 2.0 at the same time, you could have all of that wired together and have that published with, with one button. So saving a lot of time there. All right, so we went through this process. We're all done. We published, and that's it. So does anybody has any questions? We can put those into the questions pane, and I'll be happy to answer them. All right, it looks like we don't have any questions this time. So if anybody thinks of any questions later, you're always welcome to contact us at easyDITA.com. I thank you for attending today. I hope this has shown you just a little bit of what's possible when you go about automating your XML processes and just seeing how powerful it can be and how much time it can save you. So thanks again for attending. We'll talk to you next time.